Welcome back. Now, the Namibian Correctional Services will be rolling out the Community Service Orders program to the hard-up region. The head of Community Service Orders, that is Deputy Commissioner Natasha Boyson, now joins us with more details on this. Good morning, Deputy Commissioner, and welcome to GMN.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Very well. Let's talk about Community Service Orders. What does it entail, and what are the benefits of introducing such a program?
Okay. Community Service Orders is a sentencing option, first of all. An order by the court obligating a deserving offender to comply to certain conditions. So which means that this offender will be sentenced community service orders. He will be responsible to comply to a certain number of hours of constructive unpaid work to the benefit of the community, which means that this offender will serve his sentence in the community, also referred to as non-custodial sentence. So instead of going to imprisonment, the offender will be serving his sentence in the community.
So it's serving hours of uncompensated but constructive work.
Yes.
In service of community.
Yes.
Now, we understand that this program is only being rolled out right now in the hard-up region. Let's talk about how many magistrates around the country can actually sentence offenders to community service.
Okay, the program is actually rolled out much further than just hard-up. We are currently implemented in the northwestern regions, the northeastern regions, as well as central. We are just now on our way to expand to the hard-up region, the hard-up magisterial district. So which means that currently we are rolled out to 34 of 43 courts that we have targeted nationwide. And the next step is now to have the launching of the program in Marintal itself on the 4th of February. So we are very excited about it.
So 34 courts mandated or can actually service
Yes.
offenders to community
Yes.
service. Now, let's talk about the approach that Namibia Correctional Services undertakes when it comes to community service orders.
Okay. First of all, the Namibia Correctional Service is of the firm belief that incarceration should be reserved for more serious offenders because they are the people that pose a more higher risk to the peace and stability of our society. So we would like to give offenders, low-risk offenders, the opportunity to still pay back to the damage caused by the community. But in the meantime, they are still allowed to spend time with their families. They continue with maintaining employment and taking care of their families. So we believe that you have to handle offenders to the risk they pose. So low-risk offenders should rather be confined in the community where they can still positively contribute to the well-being of their families, but while they are still serving a sentence. Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about the type of offenders that can then get community service as a punishment instead of a jail term.
Okay. Okay, first of all, I think the nation should understand that sentencing is based on magistrate's discretion. So the merits of the case will detect sentencing or consideration of community service orders. Currently, we don't have a mandatory list of offences that will be considered for community service orders. But currently, we focus more on minor offences, which include shoplifting, theft, common assault, criminal injuria. Violent and statutory offences are not likely to be considered, such as murder and rape. So which means that the offender, preferably a first-time offender, should not pose a risk to the society, but the offender must deserve it also. So other offences can also be considered depending on the circumstances of the case.
Now let's talk about conditional release. Let me say I'm now in jail serving a 1-year term for shoplifting, and this program is now being rolled out for community service orders. Can there be a conditional release provided that I go and do community service? Is there an avenue where I can apply to continue half of the sentence in community service?
That is a very bright, I think, idea, but currently the Namibian government doesn't make provision for that. We do have the provision of conditional release. Say, for example, an offender is sentenced to imprisonment for a certain period of time. He may be released conditionally in the community, either on parole or remission. So that is what we refer to as conditional release. Unfortunately, our government doesn't make provision currently for an offender to serve a certain part of his sentence in custody, in as part of it in the community on community service orders. But I think in terms of our approach into moving into a modernized correctional services, I think in a few years I might be back here and explain to you and share with you that we have actually managed to do that as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the process. It's of course a magistrate to give community service orders, but we also know that Namibia Correctional Services does a lot of rehabilitation work. So are these people going to do community service without supervision, or how, if they are supervised, how are they supervised? And on the part of rehabilitation, how are they rehabilitated?
Okay. Very good question, because sometimes the public don't really understand the purpose of community service orders. And I think at the end of the day, the aim is still to ensure that offenders get rehabilitated, whether you are a low-risk offender or whether you are a high-risk offender. So what normally happens, before even sentencing can take place, the court actually instructs our officers to do a proper investigation into the circumstances of this offender, and then make a recommendation to the court whether this offender is actually suitable for community service orders. Now, during that assessment or that investigation, we also tip into, what have actually contributed to this offender committing this offense. So we really want to address those factors as well. So should we find that this offender needs some kind of intervention, we would make provision for that into the recommendation and say that this offender actually required to attend a program, not a rehabilitation program, but maybe to be referred for intervention to a social worker, or maybe to the Ministry of Gender to be assisted with a maintenance grant in terms of financial challenges. So we do make provision that during the assessment we do identify what are maybe the factors that can assist this offender to not default or to actually address those concerns. Yes.
Now, as we move towards the end, let's talk about the challenges that are posed when it comes to, especially for magistrates in dishing out community service orders.
Okay, there's various challenges from the side of the Namibia Correctional Service, but also from our stakeholders. One of the main challenges, I think, overall, is resource constraints. Because to ensure that this program is effectively implemented, we do need resources available, which include transport, ICT equipment, funds for training, because everyone responsible for the implementation need to be trained, need to be equipped with the knowledge and skills to actually ensure that this program is implemented effectively. With regard to the courts, we have noticed that there's an increase in crime in the country, so they are under extreme pressure to post stiffer sentences, aiming at deterrence and public safety, which means that sometimes public force courts to rather consider incarceration because they believe it's the more effective sentencing option, which is not really always the case. And then, of course, currently we are really trying to ensure that we have continuous sensitization, awareness-raising campaigns for people to understand the concept of community service orders, understand the benefits of it, but also to understand that there is provisions. So should the offender not comply to his condition, there are certain processes to follow, and what are those processes to follow. So those are just a few of the challenges, but it's some of the main challenges.
Okay, let's talk about the launch in the Hardap region. When exactly is it happening?
Okay, it's going to take place on the 4th of February in Marintal. This will be the official launching, where we will have the Commissioner General, Rafael Tuafeni Amaniela, also present, as well as key stakeholders like the Office of the Governor, the Mayor's Office, key mainline ministries, but also community members that we require to be involved in the implementation. Okay,
great. Thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner, and all the best with planning and rolling out the community service orders.
Thank you so much.
Great. Already available in 44 courts, and it's a community service orders that is introduced by the Namibia Correctional Services, which is hours of our constructive but uncompensated community work, as opposed to serving jail term. I was in conversation with Deputy Commissioner, that is Natasha Boyson, who is heading the community service orders. GMN will continue after the short break. Stay tuned.